Wow, Karine Andre, that was amazing. I got bring you with me. Thank you. I love this lady so much. From the bottom of my heart, I met Karen in 2008 when we were both working on the Obama campaign, and she was doing her thing in Southern Florida, really helping to elect the first black president, as we all know. And she was working her magic and just did amazing work for that campaign, and that was the first time that I met her. And so it's been 11 years. I was just thinking about that when I was sitting down, and she comes through all the time. You call her, she's there, and just love this. Thank you so much for that great intro. Thank you for all of you for being here. So this is something that Karen knows about me. I am incredibly introverted. And so being in front of all of you is a joy, but also just be patient with me, because this is not something that I do all the time, but I'm really happy to see all of your faces. So I wrote a book, which I'm so excited about. It is a memoir, part memoir and part to call to action, asking folks to get involved in politics and letting them know that they do have a voice and their voice matters. But the memoir part of it is incredibly personal, as you can imagine, very raw. I want to be very honest in the book, and I think that I accomplished that. And so I'm going to read a little bit from it, just the introductory part. And I also want to thank someone who is here who wrote a blurb for me, and I was so kind of honored and blown away, and you're going to hear from her soon, Edwidge Danticott, and thank you so much. First-time writer as myself, you didn't have to do it. We've never met in person until today, and she read the book, and I was just honored for you to have you on the back of my book, so thank you. It means a lot to me. Try not to cry. Try not to cry. Okay. Thanks for your patience. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Glasses. There you go. I carry something special in my wallet. My cousin, Jean-Pierre, gave it to me before my first day working for President Barack Obama in the White House. Remember this? He asked as he handed me an old snapshot. The corners creased, the colors washed out. I gasped. I had forgotten the trip our extended family, me and my cousins, had taken to Washington, D.C. in the summer of 1982, just before I turned 8. There we were, seated on the base of the railing in front of the south lawn of the White House, with the Truman balcony in the far background. Junot gave me the photo to remind me of the pride my family takes in my success. Of all the people in the Haitian American community I carry on my shoulders. I kept that photo with me from then on. Every day when I got my money out of the wallet for a cup of tea or a bagel at the cafeteria in the Eisenhower Executive Office building in Washington, D.C., I couldn't help but glance at the image of that timid, skinny young girl sandwiched between my much older cousins. Back then, I was so shy that the nuns who taught kindergarten at my Catholic school called my mother in to say they were worried about me. She doesn't play with other children, one said. She just keeps to herself. Over the years, I worked hard to overcome that. You've made us all proud, Junot told me. Code for how unlikely it was, inconceivably, really, that anyone from our family could get to the White House. My Haitian American father and mother, a New York City taxi cab driver and a home health care aide, didn't closely follow American politics. They were more likely to discuss the dictator dynasty of François Papa-Doc Duvalier and his son Jean-Claude Baby Doc Duvalier, who ruled Haiti from 1957 to 1986, than any American president. Like many immigrants, they came here to find a better life for their children. I was proof that their struggle had been worth it. as a woman of color, a black woman, I've also had my own struggles entering the world of politics, which even now can feel like a boys' club. Despite the record number of women who ran and won in the 2018 U.S. midterm elections, women occupy less than 23% of the seats in Congress, even though more than half of the population is women. Well, when I was at the White House, I was usually too busy to think about how I had gone from being that meek schoolgirl with braids to the confident woman in a Chris Taylor pantsuit who worked at as Obama's regional political director in the Office of Political Affairs. I was the eyes and the ears of the President of the United States in 12 northeastern states, from Maryland to Maine. The Political Affairs Wing has 3 offices in a corner in the first floor of the EOB building. The Eisenhower Executive Office Building is a beautiful historic building close to the White House's West Wing. The West Wing is home of the Oval Office where the US President works. The first time I flashed my security clearance badge to the sharply dressed Marine standing guard at the double door entrance and walked into the West Wing, I remember looking around and thinking, this is so small. It looks so much bigger on TV. As a campaign operative for Senator John Edwards in 2007 and 2008, I binge watched the NBC 2006 TV series starring Martin Sheen as a fictional American president named Hosea Bartlett. Still, it's hard not to be awed. I also felt a constant sense of responsibility because I was a black woman working for the first black American president. When you work at the White House, whether it's for a Democrat or a Republican, you have to put in 12 to 15 hours workday or more. There's a reason why most people don't last a whole 4 years term, and under President Donald Trump, turnover among his staff has occurred at a historically high rate. It's an absolute joy, but it's also a heavy lift. I like to get there between 7 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. to prepare for our first meeting at 9 o'clock, and I rarely left before 9 p.m. I would go home to my furnished basement apartment in a semi-sketchy part of town in Northeast Washington. I had taken a pay cut to work at the White House. My place was cold, dark, and dreary, but I knew I didn't need more than a place to crash. A good night's sleep was never a given. There were plenty of times that my boss emailed me at 1, 2 a.m. expecting me to get back to him ASAP, and I did. In those days, I walked around with a BlackBerry phone, the preferred device for politicals, for White House work in one hand, and in the other hand, another BlackBerry issued by the Democratic National Committee, DNC, for political work. Taxpayers did not pay for President Obama to fundraise or other political events, so having different phones for different purposes kept us honest and out of trouble. Because I was so intent on doing things the right way, I even carried a third phone, a personal one, in my pants pocket for calls and emails from my family and friends. This was not a requirement. I just wanted to be extra mindful. The stakes were too high to make a mistake. The pressure was high, but I was proud of my role and wouldn't hide it. When phone number 3 rang, which is the personal phone, I would tell the person on the other end that I had just gotten off of Air Force One with the president, or I was just about to take a trip with the vice president on Air Force Two. They would say, Karine, listen to you. You don't even realize how cool your job is. Man, I was so tired. Getting involved in politics can be intimidating. If you weren't participating in Debate Club or Young Democrats of America or Model United Nations by the time you finished high school, I know it can feel like you have no chance in politics. That's why I'm writing this book. I am proof that that is not true. I was a late bloomer. You hear stories about folks whose passions and talents were already obvious by the time they were in kindergarten. I am not like that. I wasn't drawn to a career in politics until after graduate school. I'm going to end there. Thank you so much.
Do I look shorter? The heels came off. No more talon kikit. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk around Oprah style, right? So I call myself, when I do those types of things, Oprah, Haitian Oprah. Oprah, thank you, speak it into existence. So I'm going to walk around and I'm going to ask Karen one question, Karine one question, and in the interest of time, I'll raise your hands. I can't take many. Okay, I see one hand, got you, and two. So I'm going to start with a question, and then I'll walk around Oprah style, and come say hello and give you some love. So give me a second to get down the stairs. Yes, you can. Oh, yeah, if you don't mind. How are your heels doing? You need some flats? Okay. Are you guys okay? Hey! My mom's the singer in the family, sorry.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take the questions.
All right, ladies, let's set some ground rules here. So what we're not going to do is do a 2-minute lead up to your question, right? So please don't tell her how your grandma's auntie did her hair back in the day, and how you're from Okap and her mom is from Okap and they went to school together, Lalo. All right? If you have a question, go straight to the point. Okay? All right, thank you. It's good, Effie, that's it. All right, thank you. So I don't want to give you my back, so I'll stand here. All right, Karine, so fellow Politico here. That was, first of all, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you.
All right, and thank you for sharing. I don't know, how many of you got shared your pool hearing about this Haitian woman walking into the White House, Olivia Pope style, with the security badge, walking past the guy in the military uniform? It's like, so amazing, so proud, so proud. So, man, so many things I can say, but what would you say? You talked about the long hours,
yeah.
Right? Excuse me for giving me your, me giving you my back. You know, that's my Haitian heritage and good training. You talked about that, but tell. So we have a wide range of ladies here, but for those who are rising in their careers that either might have political aspirations, and really, wherever you go in whatever industry, you're going to have to prove yourself. So talk about the hallmark qualities that you have to bring to the table, particularly as a black woman, to rise above the boys club, because there's a boys club in everything. There's law, there's one in politics, and no offense to the men in the room, but there is a boys club. So regardless, how does one distinguish yourself, and what are the key traits you have to have?
Yeah, it's such a good question, because there is a boys club and everything, and it's just so much harder for us. I mean, that's just a fact. It is so much harder for black women, so much harder for women of color, so much harder for women. And the thing that I've learned, I actually just wrote an article about this recently for NBC. It came out last week. And for a long time, and they still do it to this day, when I would be on TV, I felt like I needed to list out my resume right then and there, and just say, oh, I worked on 4 presidentials, I worked in the White House, on and on and on. And a lot of it is because, first of all, I look young. I think that's another thing that we have to deal with, is looking young, woman, being a woman of color.
Because black don't crack.
Because black don't crack. But
musical Haitian doesn't crack either, sorry.
Right, Haitian don't crack, black don't crack. So it was, in my career, it was just constant working those long hours, right? It was constantly, being there longer than everybody else. It was constantly having a longer resume than everybody else. And that's just, I mean, that is just the reality that we're in. And hoping and working and being out there that, you know, one day you will break through that glass ceiling that is so high and so thick and so difficult to break through. And I still go through it now. I mean, I have successes and I'm very proud of it. A lot of my success is based in my parents giving me the foundation and letting me know Haitian parents don't play, they don't play. And letting me know that I am beautiful, right? When I used to be made fun of for being dark skin growing up, let me know that I am smarter than the people who tell me that I won't add up to anything, and that happens. And so I wish I had the perfect formula and the perfect answer. I don't, because there is none. It is literally working, and also forming relationships. So after I got my first job in politics, I never had to give a resume ever again, because a lot of the things that I needed to do was relationship building and proving myself. So that is something that I talk about a lot of this in the book and give advice on how to get into politics. One of the reasons I wrote the book is because I teach at Columbia University in the spring, and a lot of my students, I campaign manage it, and a lot of my students would ask me, how did you get here? Like, how do you get into politics? I mean, that's the basis of the course. And so, and I thought, well, maybe I should just write it down, tell my story, and also give a call to action. I think I'm going to stop talking now, Karen, because I feel like I'm going on.
We'd love to hear you share. It's fine, but I think we got it. Yeah. And we have another question, and we actually have a remote question. It's a burning question from a remote, but I'm going to let this lovely young lady with this beautiful dress stand, say your name, and state your question without all the preface, okay? And go.
Christina Bonane, my questions.
Christina Goodyear? Love it.
My question to you is, what is your source of strength when the comments, the questions, the demeaning questions, the looks of why are you here, you're not supposed to be here, and then those, whether it's external from the boys club or from your family or from your friends, you know, how dare you aspire, whether they try to do it in a way that's subversive or not. What's your source of strength when that happens? What do you pull from to get through that and to continue to move forward?
That's such a good question, especially with social media nowadays. Things are nasty. Honestly, my faith is a big resource. My faith, my belief, and honestly, and I mentioned this already, my parents. I gotta tell you, Haitian parents, God love them. Seriously. You know, growing up, you're like, what? What do you mean? I can't go to people's house to play. I can't go to a mall with my friends.
Sáquenle sleepovers. I want to go.
Friends can't come over. I mean, I can go on and on. I'm like, what is this? We're not in Haiti. We're in America. I just want to blend in. What? I gotta take care of my brother and my sisters and cook their food. What? But it's a lot. It's a lot. But it's you know. I have a ritual with my mom that I call her every morning, and she checks in, and she kind of says the same thing to me every morning, which how proud she is of me, and it kind of brings me back to my younger days of when I would come home crying for whatever reason, whatever I was being teased of, and she would always tell me, you know, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You can be whoever you want to be. And I just got it constantly. And it was that foundation that even now as a grown adult with a 5-year-old daughter in my own family, like I instill that in my daughter. You know, that upbringing, that love that I got. And that is truly, truly what helps me get through some tough times. So Haitian parents, love them dearly. My faith, Haitian parents, and just the love that I get from my community and my friends.
Thank you. Karine, I forgot to mention your exceptional skills at being a bouncer.
Oh!
For those of you who remember her blocking that guy on the stage that was trying to get the Kamala Harris. Again, a Haitian woman can't stop us. Don't try. Just get out of the way. You're gonna lose.
I think that's gonna be like on my tombstone.
It is.
Literally.
It is.
But you told me a hilarious story of how your mom heard about that moment. You wanted to tell that while I get the next question.
Yes. So I called my siblings. I have a younger brother, a younger sister, and I think my sister texted me. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine." And then I said, and I think I called my brother after that because she texted me. I called my brother. I was like, "Okay, what am I going to tell Mommy?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." He's like, and so we we were like 16, teenagers again. And we said, okay, let's not tell her because she's gonna just be really worried if we tell her. So let's just not tell her.
Bad idea.
It was a bad idea. And I said, okay, Chris, that's a good idea. Let's just not tell her. Let's pretend it never happened. She'll never know about it because my mom actually doesn't watch cable news. I don't think my mom has actually seen me on TV. I think, we've seen clips, she'll show her clips on the phone, but she's never actually seen me. She hears it from other people. So I'm like, she's never gonna find out. And this experience that happened goes viral. I don't know how many of you guys saw this.
Everybody.
I'm still in denial. But it goes viral to a point where it's playing in the local stations, right, across the country. And it was just wild and crazy. I was not expecting that. And then one day, my mom calls me, maybe 4 days later, and she goes, Karine, I just went to the bank. And somebody at the bank told me that you stepped in front of somebody, Senator Kamala, what? I didn't know what they were talking about. I can't do her accent at all, but you guys get it.
I can do it for you. Karine!
Yeah, please, thank you.
Come on, in the interest of time.
Yeah, no, but that's it. Anyway, so she goes, so tell me about what happened. And I tell her, and she goes, that's my girl. She's like, yes, you go girl. She's like, you go girl, yes.
You go girl.
She's exactly, you go girl. She's like, yes. I'm like, what? And she's like, that is how I raised you. And she was so proud. And I called my brother later and I said, guess what Chris, Mommy knows? And he's like, oh my God, what did she say? I was like, completely opposite of what we thought. She was proud and happy. Anyway, she was proud and happy and said that's exactly what she had expected and anticipated me to do if that, with that in that scenario. And I was really surprised, but yeah, that was a
great story, story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Haitian moms.
Haitian moms.
Haitian moms. Okay, last question.
Haitian moms.
Hello, thank you for being here. My question is, as you navigate your career and going through all these different bumps on the road, what are some of the golden rules that you have, maybe 2 or 3 that you can share with all of us ladies here as we try to figure out a path? Thank you.
That's
You mean like do's and don'ts? Okay.
Yeah. One of them is, which is really important to me, is to be authentic. If you guys, read the book, and I'd be really honored if you did that.
Oh, we pre-sold.
Yeah.
Right, ladies? Yeah. All right. I bet Bush went long. Don't make my mouth long. All right.
It is true to who I am. It's authentic. It's real. It's honest. It's raw. And there is one thing that I try to be really mindful, because I really put it all out there, is to make sure I protect myself, right? Because when you give so much of yourself, you know, you can get hurt as well. But I take the chance anyway, and I feel like I'll get more in return, and I just want whoever comes behind me, young women, young Haitian women that come behind me, could feel like, you know, that I laid some sort of a path for them. Even though they have their own path. I believe everybody has their own place and their own way of getting to wherever they're getting to. But at least they can say, oh, well, Karine did it. And this is how she did it. And hopefully that's why that will be the return. That's why being honest, being authentic, and just being true to myself is really, those are the things that I've carried with me all through my career, and it's paid off. And I'm not saying I haven't been hurt or been disappointed, absolutely, but the rewards really outweighed all the disappointments. So that's kind of how I live my life. Yeah. Can I take a picture of all of you guys? And a video? This is so beautiful. If only you guys could see what I'm singing right now.
Haitian Ladies Weekend.
All right. Thank you, Nadine. Oh, also, Nadine, thank you. Thank you for all. This is all the love to Nadine. Okay, here we go, y'all. Here we go. Thank you, y'all. Thank you. My Haitian sisters,